Hi, this is Sean, and in this lesson we're going to take apart a lead sheet. What do I mean by that? Well, everybody in their playing time will need to fix certain things in lead sheets. They are not perfect. They're just a blueprint, and there are certain things that we have to improve, know what to do when particular situations come up. So this will be an introduction into that. Please do like this video, and if this is your first time here, please hit subscribe and the notification bell. It'll let you know when I upload new content. It also helps YouTube to know this is a good video and they should show it to other people. So with that, I'm ready to begin. I'm going to teach this lesson on a couple of levels. First of all, things that you mustn't miss, even if you're just getting started with reading lead sheets. Now, this isn't the easiest of keys. It's in E flat and it does even switch keys. But regardless of that, there will be a couple of principles which are true no matter what you're playing. And then we'll go to some slightly higher level stuff as well. I chose this even though the key is not the simplest key for newer players, because it just throws up some issues that we've got to know about, and it's just perfect. So these foolish things, AABA form, so 8 bars the same, next 8 bars about the same, sections will end differently, then you've got a B section, completely different, then back to an A section, just going off the screen there. I'm sure you're used to hearing that kind of form. So let's think about why we need to correct lead sheets in the first place. Why aren't they perfect as they are? Can't we just buy a better one or write a better one? Not really, because the purpose of a lead sheet is to give you enough of the original chord changes, for me anyway, to give me the space to create the way I want to create. I don't really want a jazzed up version of somebody else's substitutions and all that kind of thing of chords. I want to get as close as possible to the original so I can build my own playing above it. And even then it's not an arrangement as such. It's open every time, mostly. But to really talk about this, we need to know where the lead sheets come from and why we have them the way we do. They were mostly show tunes and film tunes. So for example, the tune we're looking at today was singer-actress Dorothy Dickinson sang These Foolish Things in the 1936 British musical comedy Spread It Abroad. So you can imagine that kind of thing wasn't going to be full of rich jazz harmony. A lot of triads a lot of the time, plus dominant sevenths, very much like classical music. Now the thing is, in jazz we're going to play more notes, so we've got to know when we look at a lead sheet that doesn't already have all those extra notes, what do we do about it? Well, at level 1, there are particular things that we want to look out for. The main one I'd like to talk about today is when to use major 6 chords, because a lot of lead sheets and books simply miss out the concept of major 6 chords. There are some books where you never see a major 6 chord. You never see a minor 6 chord, by the way, as well. But you never see a major 6, and they are required in particular instances. They're not really optional. So for example, if we take a look at that same section, well, that same tune, let's look at the first section of These Foolish Things. Well, you can see this lead sheet has left out a lot. It didn't have any extension on the E flat. It didn't have anything on the C minor, the F minor, or this E flat. So it doesn't just mean that we play triads. A lot of my newer players will just play triads on these areas, and then they'll put a dominant 7th on the B flat. That's not really how we're going to make it into a jazz tune. So because this is the key of E flat, first of all, don't try and play a tune in E flat if you don't know chords 1 to 7 in the key of E flat. So if I take the E flat major scale and build chords through the scale, then I end up with the 7 chords in the key of E flat, right? So E flat major 7, F minor 7, note F minor 7, we'll talk about that in a minute, G minor 7, A flat major 7, B flat 7, C minor 7, we'll talk about that in a minute, D minor 7 flat 5, and E flat major 7. So it always astounds me when people come saying they're struggling with a tune in a particular key. They don't actually talk about the key, they just say they're struggling with a tune. But they don't know the basics like the chords that live in the key of that tune, right? So that's really important. So what I would like you to know is that on these areas, I would play E flat 6s. Why? Because when E flat is in the melody, we can't see the key signature here, it's just gone off. But this is the key of E flat, so this should be an E flat. We play E flat 6, not E flat major 7. Otherwise, we would have this situation. we'd have these right against each other. We don't want that, we want a 6. So this is an E flat 6 inverted, so I play right hand chords in my melodies. And there's a shell for that, the 1 and 6 down there. Now it doesn't matter that the melody's moved on the C minor. That's fine, it's still C minor 7. Remember I showed you that C minor 7 was one of the chords in the key. So if any of these are simply chords in the key, which all of them are, then you can just put their 7s on, aside from the cases where you get an E flat major with an E flat in the melody, as we said. Okay, so this can be F minor 7. Again, this is going to be E flat 6 because it's got an E flat in the melody. So don't just assume that you just add a 7 on. Okay, so that whole area becomes like this. Don't worry if I play the rhythms differently. I mean, that's pretty normal with a lead sheet. F minor, got my 7 in. In fact, the melody goes all the way up to a 9, but they just wrote an F minor. B flat 7 is fine. And then an E flat 6 again. Okay, don't worry about every little minutiae, like there's a 6 on that B flat, so should it be a 13 chord? No. More advanced people, it doesn't need to be at all. That stuff just gets figured out because you can see it gives straight back anyway. Going up a level, let's say amending some common chord progressions. Now, fortunately, this happens less and less the more we get revisions to books and the more people understand as they put books together. But at every point in one of my students' playing lives, they've brought in a tune where this happens, so it is worth looking at. So we get major 2-5. So a major 2-5 for me simply means, let's say I'm in the key of C, saying D minor 7 to G7 to go to C major. So that 2-5 for me was a major 2-5. Okay. Now major 2-5s often get written, or sometimes get written, a little wrongly. Why? Because it dates back to the days where these lead sheets were written for accordion players. So the buttons of the chords, my understanding is, depending on how flash your accordion was, you had different, or you still do have different amounts of chord possibilities. But because of that, they often wrote things differently to the way we would, let's say, theorize them. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let's see an example. So on this part of These Foolish Things, this is part of the B section, we get a move to the key of B flat. So how do we recognize we've gone to the key of B flat? Well, this is a common progression. 1, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, G minor 7. And then really it's C minor 7 to F7, 2, 5. In pop music, you may well go 1, let's just do them in triads. 1, 6, 4, 5. Let's have an F7, because you'll still often get that F7 even in the pop styles. But in jazz, we're more likely to make that 4, that E flat, into a C minor 7. See how close they are anyway. Sometimes on a lead sheet, it'll say E flat 6, which is the same if you invert it down as C minor 7. So these things jump out at you the more I train my students to spot these sorts of progressions and key changes. So these things jump out at you. And therefore this should really be a C minor 7. So let's see. C minor 7 to F7. Now let's see what it sounds like as an E flat. It's okay, but much more likely to be a 1-6-2-5 progression. Okay, so with minor 2-5s we get the same issue. We get a chord written sometimes that isn't quite what we need. Again, probably because of those accordion buttons, but I could be wrong about that. It doesn't matter, we've still got to correct them, whatever the reason. They used to get written a minor to a 7, a dominant 7. Like this, C minor to D. This for me means D7, by the way. I ignore anything past 7. I don't want a lead sheet to tell me if that has to be a 9. The 9's not in the melody. A is not the 9 of D, so for me it's D7, and I'll play whichever voicings or extensions feel right to me according to my system. I have a system of when to apply certain voicings that we teach on Jazz Skills. So this is a minor 2-5, really. Why? Because look, C minor to D7. C minor, especially it'll be obvious if we make it C minor 6, and this often gets written as C minor 6 to D7, because that C minor 6, if inverted down, is A minor 7 flat 5 to D7, which is a 2-5 to G minor. I teach that on YouTube, so it's actually G minor 6 in this case, but that's perhaps for another day. So I'll link below what's relevant content I've got on these. But again, you would need to spot that, right? Okay, so it's not going to be what they've written. It'll never quite sound authentic. But again, if you're working on progressions, which I highly don't just recommend but insist my students do, then these things will jump out at you. But in the meantime, look out for a minor going to a dominant, or a minor 6, this could have been, as I said, or a major like this going to a dominant. Notice they're a tone below, E flat to F, C to D, so those are a dead giveaway as well. Okay. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and if you did, perhaps you'll consider joining us on Jazz Skills, where I can give you much more targeted help about getting fluent, learning chords in progressions and applying them to tunes, getting into voicings, movements, improvisation, and getting individual help from me. So thanks a lot for watching. See you on the next one. Bye for now.